Welcome back to ACB Wrestling Talk, your main source for wrestling news and wrestling discussions. I'm, of course, your host, Alexis Carrillo, and let's get into some wrestling talk. Today's Friday, December the 6th, 2019, which means Friday Night SmackDown on Fox, where Roman Reigns will do battle with Dolph Ziggler, yet another one of King Corbin's pawns, whatever you want to call them, servants, again. So, Roman Reigns took care of Robert Roode last week. Robert Roode, Bobby Roode, what are they calling him now? Don't know, but he's glorious. But this week he faces off against Dolph Ziggler, and you can practically damn well guarantee that King Corbin ain't going to be far away from him. So they've got to keep building this up. I believe TLC is just about a week, about 10 days away from starting right now. So they pretty much could announce Roman Reigns versus King Corbin at TLC this very night on SmackDown. It's a match that everyone's been able to predict ever since October, ever since before Survivor Series. They've been able to predict this end of the year Roman Reigns versus King Corbin match. Not only that, but King Corbin, as he usually does, is going to try and humiliate Roman Reigns. And if his past segments are any indication, he might not achieve it. With his the big dog and the little chihuahua bark and having a guy come out dressed as the big dog. The execution of all these segments have been lackluster. Baron Corbin, gotta give him his props, his promos, the words that come out of his mouth that were written for him, he's made them work, and I give him props for that. He's very talented at having people hate him on the mic. I'll give him that. But at the end of the day, all of these segments, these childish, bullyish segments, they just aren't compelling to me. And I don't know, that's just me. Are they compelling to you? Leave your thoughts, comments, and predictions on the comments section below. Not only that, but tonight we also will get an update on Daniel Bryan's condition. Daniel Bryan, of course, the number one contender for the Universal Championship at TLC against The Fiend, got attacked by The Fiend itself, this past Friday night on SmackDown, when he pretty much dragged him to the depths of hell under the ring. And apparently it looked like Bray Wyatt, The Fiend, was starting to rip hair out of Daniel Bryan's scalp. So, will Daniel Bryan have a new look on tonight's SmackDown? Will he have a new attitude? Will he be just looking to get his hands on Bray Wyatt and The Fiend tonight on SmackDown? Again, I don't think Daniel Bryan has any chance of becoming Universal Champion anytime soon. But you've got to make this rivalry interesting, and, The Fiend can't do all of the work. So let's just wait and see what Daniel Bryan has to say. Not only that, but also Bayley has to deal with the sassy Southern belle, Lacey Evans, who knocked the hell out of her best friend Sasha Banks with the women's right on last week's SmackDown, and Bayley did pretty much nothing about it. So maybe they start planting the seeds for a future Bayley versus Sasha Banks match, possibly WrestleMania. But as of right now, Bayley's got to worry about Lacey Evans. Lacey Evans is going to challenge her for the SmackDown Women's Championship at TLC. It's not official; it hasn't been announced, but it's just so obvious it's going to go that way. That's just what's going to happen. So let's just see what kind of attitude Bayley brings to Lacey Evans on tonight's Blue Brand show. Moving on to our second segment of the show. NXT finally lost to AEW Dynamite once again. It was close, gotta admit that. It was very damn close, but Dynamite got their victory back. And now it does seem like this is a two-horse race. Now it does seem like NXT's got a chance. Before, it just seemed like Dynamite would just keep winning and winning and winning. And now NXT has got a couple wins under their belt, so they're looking for more. The thing is, AEW Dynamite drew 851,000 viewers on TNT, a bit over 200,000 more than what they did last week. And NXT drew 845,000 viewers on the USA Network. That's a difference of about approximately 6,000 viewers. Of course, all of these are approximate figures. We don't have the exact figures. NXT could have been watched by 845,121 viewers. We don't know that. But in essence, it was about a 6,000 viewer difference, which is, low viewership for professional wrestling if you compare it to Raw or SmackDown, but it's very close. It does seem like fans are getting really doubtful and really excited to watch both shows. Maybe they might be applying that whole flip back and forth between them. The thing is, now it's pretty much unpredictable because like I said, NXT has got quite a couple of weeks ahead of them. A triple threat match main event for next week that will define the number one contender for the NXT title on the following week's show. And then on that following week's show, December 18th, we'll also have an NXT Women's title match between Shayna Baszler and Rhea Ripley. So NXT is booked up to its nails right now, obviously trying to surpass AEW Dynamite once and for all, while Dynamite seems to be focused on the here and the now. It seems to be focused more on, let's just put on a good wrestling show with the stars we do have. Let's not build up to anything. That's my point of view. Other than Moxley versus Jericho that they are seeming to build in a very, very slow manner right now, there's nothing really much to be excited about in AEW. That's just my opinion. Okay? You might have a different one. I accept that. But that's just if you ask me. Moving on to our third segment, Kofi Kingston said Daniel Bryan pushed for him to be in the WrestleMania WWE title match. Of course, very famous at this point, that match was supposed to be going towards a returning Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens returning from injury, returning as a babyface. It was supposed to be Owens versus Daniel Bryan for the WWE Championship. Now, whether Kevin Owens was supposed to win the title, we don't know for sure, although probably that would have been the case. But ultimately, after that gauntlet match and after the Elimination Chamber, SmackDown Live audiences and WWE Live audiences were pretty much behind Kofi Kingston. They wanted Kofi Kingston in that spot, and Daniel Bryan agreed. Kofi Kingston appeared again on Corey Graves' After the Bell podcast, and this is what Kofi Kingston had to say about Daniel Bryan pushing for him to be in that main event WrestleMania spot. And I quote, Daniel Bryan pushed for that to happen because the plans weren't for me to be at WrestleMania. I'm not sure who it was for Daniel to face, but it wasn't me. And Daniel went in and went to bat for me. And for the situation, for a title match between us to happen, so he had a big part in it, too. It's a testament for his state of mind as far as advancing the business and doing the right thing for the people and for the best match or product for the people to take in. So, kudos to Daniel Bryan. So, that's what Kofi Kingston, paying his due respect to Daniel Bryan, pushing for him to be a number one contender. But again, all in all, Kofi Kingston did get that match. He got his WrestleMania moment. He became WWE Champion after 11 years in the company where he had been a tag team champion and a U.S. champion and an Intercontinental champion and the highlight of the Royal Rumble match, but never, ever a main event star. Never, ever a clear top contender. As a matter of fact, he had never gotten an actual WWE or world title match up until that point. Unfortunately, like I stated yesterday, WWE seemed to ruin that entire story, that entire Kofi Kingston mystique, by having him being squashed by Brock Lesnar in 11 seconds. So hopefully, WWE creative can pull something out of their ass and, eventually get Kofi Kingston to a point where he's back in a position where he's an actual credible top contender for a WWE or world title, but it just seems so very hard. Just seems so very hard. I mean, the hardcore wrestling fan, the mainstream wrestling fan, will always view Kofi Kingston as a former WWE champion. And because of that, he will always be eligible and a top contender in our eyes to be in a main world championship feud, main world championship rivalry. In the eyes of the mainstream wrestling fan, in the eyes of the fans that for the most part matter, because again, the mainstream wrestling fan, the hardcore wrestling fan, they come in, week out, whether they like the show or whether they don't. They just keep watching until something works, and when something doesn't work, you'll hear about it on the IWC, on the internet, because that's what being a hardcore wrestling fan is all about. The mainstream wrestling fan, on the other side, he's got better things to do than watch wrestling. And if he doesn't like what he's watching on wrestling, if he isn't entertained by Raw or by SmackDown, he won't tune in. So again, I ask, will the mainstream wrestling fan ever see Kofi Kingston as a top contender? I honestly don't know. It depends to WWE creative, like I said. But hopefully, we'll just have to wait and see. Hopefully, Kofi Kingston can eventually get back to that position. Maybe when Xavier Woods returns. We'll just have to wait and see a few months in advance after WrestleMania. Currently, Kofi Kingston is the SmackDown Tag Team Champion. What do you think? Do you think Kofi Kingston has just been reverted back to being a tag team wrestler and back to where he used to be? Or do you think that if they were to put him in a world title match right now, maybe fans could buy into it again? Leave your thoughts, comments, and predictions on the comment section below. News coming out that the WWE Network quietly launched a free tier. This, of course, an update on the reports by various wrestling news websites that WWE is planning to launch a tier subscription plan, meaning that there would be a free version of the WWE Network with ads. There would be a $9.99 version of the WWE Network where you'll get pretty much the basic content that the free tier would have, except with no ads. And then you had the $14.99, which would give you the entire access to all of the shows. Again, they still have yet to roll it out yet. They still have yet to make an official statement, but these are all just reports. These are all rumors up until this point. But it is true that yesterday, WWE Network had a free tier for the WWE Network. Now, you can only see this if you weren't a current WWE Network subscriber, or if you accessed the website without your actual login for the WWE Network. The free tier homepage currently features several images of content in them. Some locked, trending now, recently added, every pay-per-view ever, WWE NXT highlights, recent WWE highlights, WWE Top 10, this is NXT, recent in-ring programming, WWE Network Essentials, TLC, feature series, watch, all of this content that the free tier of the WWE Network offers. But again, this is just like, what do they call it, the beta test for the WWE Network in terms of a free tier, in terms of having different options for each fan. And at this point, it just seems like it's going to get a little bit crowded in terms of every single fan's subscription services. Simply because I can guarantee that every single fan out there who subscribed to the WWE Network, they have not one, not two, not three, maybe even 4 other subscription services, be it Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, Hulu, Disney Plus, Apple Plus, HBO, you name it. They have other subscription services. And right now, the network's price right now is $9.99. If they start pulling out tiers, which would build up the price up to $14.99, you can damn well know for sure, at least this is my point, that maybe fans would just dump the network altogether. You know, I'm not paying $14.99 when I'm just paying $7.99 for Disney Plus, $12.99 for Netflix, and they have much more diverse content than the network ever has. That's might be what happens. That might be the case. Again, we're going into 2020, and it seems like into 2020 and beyond, it's going to be the start of the streaming wars. The WWE Network and every single other wrestling subscription service out there, streaming service out there, might be on the losing end of that. And finally, to top off this Friday's edition of ACB Wrestling Talk, it seems like NXT and Dynamite might be taking nights off for the holidays. Of course, December 25th, Christmas Day, January 1st, New Year's Day. Both land on Wednesday nights, which coincides with the Wednesday Night Wars that Dynamite and NXT have been having over the past couple of months now. But it does seem that there are no current episodes of NXT scheduled to air on December 25th or January 1st. Now, this doesn't mean that NXT won't air on the USA Network. It just means that it might be a recap show. It might be a best of show, kind of in the same vein of what Impact Wrestling usually does at the end of the year. If you're an Impact Wrestling fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. AEW, on the other hand, has no episode scheduled on December 25th. Again, that doesn't mean that they won't have any kind of broadcast or taping or production for that date. It just means it might be a best of show, best of AEW in 2019, a recap of the entire year of its first year, and that might be a little bit more interesting for fans to watch, seeing AEW's entire 2019, their very first year in business, recapped on TNT. But it does seem that they have a show scheduled on January 1st. AEW apparently will return to Jacksonville, Florida at Daly's Place for Dynamite that night. So maybe they're trying to throw a New Year's bash for possibly still Le Champion Chris Jericho on Dynamite that night. If you ask me, and if I have to make a prediction right now, I'm guessing both of those episodes, both of those weeks, December 25th, January 1st, both of them go to Dynamite, in my opinion. Mostly because on the 25th, again, as I stated, the 25th might be recap shows. I'm more interested in watching Dynamite being recapped in 2019. And on January 1st, Dynamite might be the only show going up live on New Year's Day. So, with that said, it does seem like, both companies might have slight interest in, their families and their wrestlers' families and caring for them and making sure that they're taken care of and they can spend their holidays with their families. And on the last note, NXT is scheduled to return to the Full Sail University on Wednesday, January 8th. And that's the night that the winners of the NXT year-end awards will be revealed. So that's currently, it's end of the year. Again, most of these companies tend to just focus on ending the year off on a good note and focusing on saving their best plans for the new year, for 2020, and for that and beyond. Because, again, most fans do get tuned out of professional wrestling during this time of the year, especially after the TLC pay-per-view, or especially after the last pay-per-view of the year. So with that said, that's been it for today's episode, December 6th, finally Friday, December 6th, 2019. That's been it for ACB Wrestling Talk. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you dislike this video, hit the dislike button. That's it for me. Have a great week.